Are we on?
We are now. Welcome to Manuel Transmissions. It's an all Baus testosterone laden edition of Manuel Transmissions today. Haven't done one in a couple weeks, Ethan. So Ethan and Evan join me from DC. So it's going to be an NBA playoff talk one. And Evan, I want you to start us off with as the Wizards are on their way to their 4-game sweep. Got bombed by a gecko. Um, a gecko that laughs. That's right. So, Evan, if Randy Whitman coaches the Wizards to a 4-game sweep, does that vindicate Whitman ball for the Wiz?
No, I don't think so. I think that everybody's gonna overreact to him winning another playoff series, which is awesome. But at the same time, they're not gonna fire him, which means that the Wizards might stay mediocre for the next couple years.
What happens if they go to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Which they will do.
Which they probably will do, because I think they're going to beat the struggling Hawks in the next round of the series playoffs. Or would you fire him and hire Scott Brooks, who's an equally unaccomplished X's and O's coach?
I don't think they're gonna fire him at all. I think there's no chance that he does get fired now. But there comes a point in time where the players are able to bail him out enough that it makes him look like a good coach. I think that's what happened this series. He's still reluctant to go small, which is obviously the best thing, and he's still reluctant to play Gortat the enough minutes he needs, which is the reason I criticize him so much. But other than that, the players do bail him out. He's doing a good job right now, as much as I hate to say it. It was just so bad in the regular season. That's why I gave him so much crap.
All right, Ethan, I'm going to make you the defender of Randy Whitman.
Well, the funny thing about it, I guess 3 things, right? One is it's hard to win here.
Not when you have a good team like we have.
Hold on.
I
didn't interrupt you at all. I just made a funny facial expression when you said Randy Whitman has done a good job in the playoffs. But I think you can't discount the fact that if he gets them to the second round 2 years in a row, that hasn't been done since the late 70s, which is significant. But number 2, the fire Randy Whitman talk started about a month ago when they hit the doldrums, and in response, both John Wall, their best player, and Ted Leonsis, the owner, defended Randy Whitman, and they've consistently defended him. And so I think they're not going to fire him. I think this team is interesting in that, one, they're a likable group. The best thing about this team is their best player, John Wall, plays harder than everybody else on the team. When your best player is your hardest working player, that's always a good sign. And I think, Evan touched on it. The fact that they're playing small, this could be, Paul Pierce is probably not going to be better next year, but Otto Porter is going to be better. And Porter and Beal and Wall and Gortat, those are 4 really good players. I think Pierce and Nene are worse next year, but
That's a consistent part of the Manual Transmissions. Evan's phone going nuts.
It's making duck sounds. The past couple of times, Ramon Sessions did another 3. Now we're up by 7.
I wonder how much of it, and this is the last time we should ever talk about the Wizards, how much of this is roster construction? Outside of Paul Pierce, do they have a reliable 3-point shooter? They really don't.
Well, Bradley Beal is supposed to be that player. Yeah.
But he's not. He's not that guy. He's just an inefficient shooter. I know he's very talented, but he seems like he's regressed some this year. I know some people think part of that's the scheme, but I threw out Scotty Brooks just because he just got fired, and maybe that's a way to lure Kevin Durant back. I guess that's the other That's the other part of all this discussion is maybe in a couple of years you get Durant. I don't know that Durant. Obviously, if Durant really liked Scotty Brooks, he would have kept them from getting fired in Oklahoma City. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Well, Beal hasn't been as good this year because he's been injured. I also don't I used to think we were gonna get Kevin Durant, but recently he's said some quotes that he's probably not gonna leave Oklahoma City. I don't know why you would, but I don't know.
Because it's Oklahoma City. That's why.
Yeah, well, they have better fans than we do.
Not really. Just
well, you know what?
Not really.
But Johnny, that's true. it's phenomenal how few Wizards fans there are. On Friday night, I was with some coworkers, and they were like, "So what are you gonna do after this?" Because our boss was in town, so we had a little happy hour. I said, "I'm going to the Wizards game," and everybody's like, "What? What the what? Wizards game?" I mean, and it's been documented in the Post so often that if you look, you look at Facebook and Twitter, they do all these analyses of friends and who they follow. The Wizards are the second most popular basketball team in the district, behind the Lakers. The Lakers have more Facebook friends and more followers on Twitter within the District of Columbia and the suburbs, PG County, Montgomery County, Fairfax County, than the Wizards do. And they are so it's phenomenal how few fans they have.
Well, I stand corrected, but I can't stand Oklahoma City's fans in some ways. I can't stand that they have a team still. I suppose I should get over that, but
You and Phil are still very mad about that.
Well, in a couple of years, they're not going to have Durant, and they're not going to have Westbrook, and Westbrook's going to go be a Laker in 2 years. Come on, Evan, you know that?
But you don't know that. They have a pretty good thing going on.
Yeah, they're not even in the playoffs. What a great thing they have going on.
If it weren't for everybody getting injured, their second and third best players, were injured this year. Westbrook wasn't healthy the entire season.
Were their third best players on the Rockets?
Exactly, their third best players could win the MVP. So
I mean, I don't know why they like this general manager.
I know.
Trading, what's his name, Jeff Green, and then firing Scotty Brooks. This guy's an idiot, not some master roster assembler. He got lucky that the morons in Portland chose Greg Oden with the number 1 pick instead of Kevin Durant.
Well, I'll just say that he is very good at identifying young big men. I mean, whether it's Ibaka, Steven Adams is a good young big man. The McGarry's going to be useful for them. He does some good things, but I agree with you. I mean, like, if he was a baseball general manager and you traded James Harden,
who trades James Harden? I mean,
they're not just trading for a bag of beans. He traded him for nothing. That's what he traded for Steven Adams and Kevin Martin. And just, Steven Adams is decent. I get it. But, they have Enes Kanter, who's basically Steven Adams. So
James Harden wasn't James Harden now when he was on
But everybody knew he was good.
Because James Harden now is because he's getting a lot of touches.
But James Harden took him to they went to the finals with James Harden.
If you have 2 other stars. So.
But he was 6th man of the year when he was there. They went to the finals with him. They haven't without him. So. that was just a bad trade.
It was a bad trade, but he still wouldn't be as good as he is now if he was still on the Thunder.
I don't care how many points he'd scored; they would be better.
They would be better.
They had James Harden. That's all we're talking about. The general manager's job
you can't give the general manager that much. I mean, when you draft Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, you got to be doing something right.
Yeah, you were bad before, so you had the 2nd pick and whatever pick Westbrook was. Westbrook is like a younger, is like a lither, better version of Baron Davis. But man, I love Baron Davis. Both UCLA guards who
there's
were
no resemblance to their games.
What?
No resemblance to Westbrook's and Baron Davis's game.
Yes, there absolutely is. You didn't see young Baron Davis. He was boused.
Yeah, I didn't watch young Baron Davis every single day, but he probably wasn't as Westbrook is now. Was that before or after the injury?
He wasn't as good, but he was pretty awesome in his day.
Yeah, but he was a lot slower than Russell.
Well, no, early, before he tore up his knee. But when he played for the Hornets, they were really good, and he was really good. So
well, I think we should point out that the Portland Trailblazers have drafted Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan and Greg Oden over Kevin Durant. Other than that, they've been great.
So, let's talk about the rest of the NBA playoffs, since we're agreeing so often on it. Spurs, Clippers. Which team do you want to see lose more, Evan? I want to see the Clippers lose more. I can't stand the Clippers.
I get kind of tired of the Spurs, so I wouldn't mind seeing them lose. But I also, I'm not a huge hater of the Clippers, but I'm definitely not a Clippers.
I'm like you, John. I'm a huge hater of the Clippers. I've never liked Chris Paul. Obviously, they have 2 Rivers on there, which is one too many. And J.J. Redick, Blake Griffin is a fine player. I don't mind him.
The whole homeschooled loser, homeschooled creationist fool. Can't stand that guy.
But there's plenty of people not to like on the Clippers. I think Chris Paul is one of the more overrated players. Evan and I have argued about this too, but I think he's way overrated.
Me too. I think he's overrated.
Oh, y'all are wrong. Why you say these things?
Because he's never gone past. He's won like one playoff series in a year ever. You're a point guard. You control the game. You're in the era of point guards. He hasn't won bupkis. He didn't win anything at Wake Forest. He hasn't won anything in the NBA, and he's supposed to control the game.
He's taking bad.
I'm not saying he's not really good. He's very good. But you ask me,
New Orleans Hornets teams to the playoffs. He's leading the Clippers now. They're the 3 seed in the West. Why is that such a
win a playoff series? Win a playoff series.
Numbers. He's gonna win this playoff series. He won a playoff series last year, and he should have won the next one.
He's won one playoff series ever.
You know how many Tony Parker's won? 4.
You know how many John Wall has won? 1. So basically,
he's about to win 2.
Chris Paul's better than John Wall is right now. Chris Paul's better than John Wall.
I do think Chris Paul's better than John Wall. I do. I think John Wall will be better, and I think John Wall will have a better career, even though he can't shoot jump shots. He has the little intangibles. He's also never punched anybody below the belt like Chris Paul does regularly. That guy's like a stealth fraud.
Yeah,
he's a fraud. And I'll take Steph Curry over any of them. That's not even in question. That's the best guard in the NBA, Steph Curry. I'd take Westbrook over him. So Paul is supposed to be the best point guard of his generation. He's not even the best guy in the league right now. And the best guy of his generation, the underrated guy, is Parker. Tony Parker's a money player. I know he's had Duncan playing with him, but it's not like the Clippers have had no talent while he's been there. Everything was geared for Chris Paul. The NBA went out of its way to make this Clippers thing happen with Chris Paul. I just think
they're good. They're a good team. They should make the Western Conference Finals this season.
No way. They're not going to win this series.
They're
old man Spurs are
going to. They're going home.
I don't think so.
I like rooting for the Spurs. Obviously, Danny Green on the Spurs. Tim Duncan, you can't root against Tim Duncan. Tony Parker, I agree. I think he's the most impressive foreign player because I think all the other overseas players are tall. And the big difference between the big thing that differentiates American players from European players is that the American players are smarter. They understand the game better, and they're more sophisticated in their thinking. And that's why I think it's always been hard for a foreign point guard to be as good because they're not as smart as an American point guard. But Parker is the exception.
I would use the word savvy instead of smart because I don't think
more sophisticated, just knows the game better, whatever you want to call it. That's
right. It's street smarts or like playground savvy that you don't get in European basketball that you get in the U.S.
And obviously Popovich, I think there's a lot to say about how great Popovich. He was a Larry Brown disciple, so there's a little Carolina connection. But I think everything about him is so refreshing because he's not a screamer. He's got a sense of humor. He doesn't seem to suffer fools gladly, but doesn't take himself too seriously at the same time. I think he's just a really intriguing guy to root for and to watch coach.
Once again, your dad is right, Evan. Moving on in the West, I don't remember the other West series. So Houston's going to beat Dallas.
Well, the other ones are all 3-0. Yeah, the other ones are.
There's no close series besides the Hawks and the Nets and the.
So how about the Bucks? What is the biggest? Is Jason Kidd becoming a good NBA coach? The other biggest surprise of this NBA season? I love that the Bucks won 15 games last year. They lose Jabari Parker early in the year. The Larry Sanders guy, who all the basketball intelligentsia guy loved, that guy freaks out and they release him. And that team still gets better by 20-some games. And this is the same Jason Kidd that like 2 years ago everybody made fun of when he fired Lawrence Frank and he was coaching the Nets and all that. And they've retooled with this Chris Middleton guy and the Greek Freak. Of course, we love Antetokounmpo. And John Henson getting significant crunch time minutes, rejecting Pau Gasol the other day at the 10. That was cool. That's a fun Bucks team to root for. Well, now, especially when they don't have Jabari Parker.
Well, the interesting thing about that team, too, besides Giannis, who we all love, like you said, it's funny that both – being the author of the Carolina Hellenic Blue blog, that they have a Helene and a Tar Heel who have the exact same body type, who weigh like 140 pounds wet. I mean, they're so skinny. It's fun to watch them. But and this is something that Evan and I have talked about, actually. One of the more intriguing things, this is what I guess Jason Kidd knows what he's talking about. They traded Brandon Wright Brendan Knight, a pretty good point guard, 2 months ago for another point guard. It's hard to change point guards and stay on task, and they seem to pull it off. So
Well, they didn't stay on task. They got worse.
yeah, but then they got worse and they got better. At the end of the, they finished strong down the stretch. And I don't know. It's interesting that they traded their point guard, and it didn't trip them up that badly. They still made the playoffs, and having them win one game is a big accomplishment for a team that young and that skinny.
I was surprised at that trade as well, and I'm with you, Evan. I like Brandon Knight better than MCW, but that said, it does seem like I have seen Brandon Knight at least twice on Shacked in a Fool, and I've never seen MCW.
Well, he makes a lot of bad plays. Like
yeah, he's on Shacked in a Fool.
Yeah, he's just had bad luck with that kind of stuff.
Have you guys ever watched Shacked in a Fool?
I've never watched a show.
No, I think that's kind of an embarrassing name, so I don't watch it.
It is, but it is basically the JaVale McGee show. So whenever Alex talks about JaVale McGee, he says it the way Shaq says it, JaVale McGee. It's awesome. You guys, if you have NBA TV, just DVR it one time and watch it, because they had the 75th episode of Shacked in a Fool. So it was like the all-time top 10 of the last 3 years, Shacked in a Fool, and they retired. They put JaVale McGee and Kendrick Perkins in the Shacked in a Fool Hall of Fame and showed a lot of their worst ever plays. It was awesome. I mean, it's just great NBA bloopers is really all it is. But it's hilarious.
Well, here's another topic, though. Who's the dumbest NBA player in the league now? Nick Young or JaVale McGee?
Well, JaVale McGee's not in the league, so nobody signed him.
Well, he is drawing a paycheck, though, as an NBA basketball player.
I probably would say Swaggy P, because he nicknamed himself Swaggy P. That's pretty bad. I have to say I don't know all the dumbest player, but if Alex will come in here, I'll ask him on who won Shacked in a Fool this year, because I haven't seen who won it. But it might have been JaVale McGee again. Who's the dumbest wizard, Evan?
Randy Whitman.
See, I remember Randy Whitman from his Atlanta Hawks two-guard days, and he was the king of he was a two-guard who shot two-pointers. He never shot threes. He did not have three-point range.
Earlier, Evan and I were arguing. I was saying, have you learned anything from living in this house? But he has learned how to stay on message with that Randy Whitman answer. So
well, he told me that because I was criticizing Tyler Hansbrough.
I commend my son for staying on message.
I say, what else have the Raptors got to lose? Get the ball to Psycho T.
He's terrible.
So, Martin, first of all, you kindly leave for saying that about Tyler Hansbrough.
I said that same thing.
That's not the first time I've heard that. Just now, he had a terrible foul on the name for N1.
Second of all, how bad could it be? How much worse could he be than whatever else the Raptors run out there? Can't be that.
They're losing by 34 right now, so.
Yeah, they gave up midway through when Otto Porter made that three-pointer. It was dagger time, and the Wizards were up by 26 points. It was a third-quarter dagger from Steve Buckhands. The one thing you see, this is where if Evan would say something other than he's terrible. I mean, the sad thing about Hansbrough is, one, I think if he got minutes, he would be a good player. But now, I think, John, you and I have even talked about it. He's kind of developed this game where he thinks he's got to be super physical and one of these enforcer dudes. And I think if he had got more minutes, he wouldn't play that way. But the one thing that's weird about him is I'm surprised he has not learned how to take a three-point shot. I thought by now in his career he would have realized that he's undersized at 6'8". I guess it seems to be like he's shorter than we thought he was. And I'm surprised he hasn't developed more of an outside shot instead of deciding to be a banger like that.
Yeah, he doesn't have long arms. He has jumping ability, but he doesn't have length. So really, in the league, it's disappointing that he didn't show a little bit more aptitude, because David West has a very similar body, and he played behind David West for 4 years in Indiana, 3 years, and he really should have tried to pattern his game after David West, or, like you said, seeing the rest of the league and kind of be a stretch four, but instead he seems like he's pretty stubborn, and he's got exactly the same game, and the rest of the league is adjusted to him, which I have to say, very grudgingly, that's where you talk about the Wizards, the Clippers. The only player on that team I actually really respect is J.J. Redick, whose body's completely different than he used to be. And you read this stuff, and you're like, I don't know if you guys read that long article SI did on Matt Barnes. where Matt Barnes talked about what a good teammate Reddick is, and everybody talked about what a great teammate Matt Barnes is. But it sounds like Reddick has learned from his mistakes earlier in his career.
No, I think, John, you're right. That's a fair assessment of J.J. Redick, who has decided to be, he's become Rip Hamilton, but with a three-point shot. So,
Yeah, I have to give him credit.
Talking about volleyball!
All right, well, Alex, you missed all of our NBA talk.
Nah, we ain't done.
Well, the
All
other
right.
big question, right, John, is can anybody in the East, or I don't think anybody, I think the Cavs win the whole thing.
Say that again.
I still think the Cavaliers win the whole thing.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen when Kevin Love got hurt today, so.
That's true, but
I know he's not crucial to their team, but I mean, like, that's another guy who, I mean, again, Hansborough's not that good. He's just not that skilled. That's a guy who has a similar body, doesn't have length, isn't a great defender. Again, do I think Hansborough could have been like a poor man's version of that? Yeah, he could have. You got to go upstairs. Mom's calling you. You got to go upstairs. This one won't be high on the archives. But anyway, yeah, it's just I do think the Cavs. No one's going to beat the Cavs.
I just think, they do, and again, it's kind of funny now that we're saying another good thing about a player. Kyrie Irving's gotten really good. He's become an elite player. And, they have that roster of you're talking about GMs who make good moves compared to the Oklahoma City guy. Bringing in Imam Shumpert and some of these other guys, like Mozgov, he's been phenomenal for them. They made really interesting moves that made that team really, really legit. So, and they have LeBron James.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I've lost containment here with my kids, so I better go.
Well, let's ask Evan talk about who he thinks is going to win the NBA championship.
Evan, who's going to win? So I guess your dad's picking the Cavs.
I don't know.
I'm going with the Dubs. I'm thinking the Warriors.
That's a good pick. That's just a safe pick. I don't know.
How's it a safe pick? They've won one championship ever in their history. I know they have the best record in the league this year.
They have the best players and the best team. Okay, that's
Well,
a safe pick.
I still don't think anybody's picking them because they don't have a post scorer. They'd be a very unusual champion in NBA history. I think their defense.
David Lee, man.
He never plays. He's not even in the rotation.
I know. I'm trying
He's still hurt, I guess, right?
No, he's healthy. He just doesn't play. That's another great sign of Steve Kerr for a first-year coach to come in there and put Iguodala on the bench and basically sit a 2010 guy like David Lee, and the team's gotten that much better. But they're so much better defensively without David Lee. He was a horrible defender. So he was a perfect Knick. He would have been a perfect Knick. It is amazing that the NBA, I have to give the NBA credit for having such popularity with the Knicks and the Lakers so terrible. They've given up. The two of their biggest marquee franchises are awful, hideous. So
I don't know if you followed the Knicks beat writer. I think in December said, I can't watch any more Knicks games. so in the New York Times every day he would write a different story about a different game that he attended that was not a Knicks game because he just stopped going. I think they ran AP stories about the Knicks. Not individual game stories written by a New York Times reporter.
I don't read the Times for basketball or for sports, frankly. But Steve Popper, who covers them for the Daily News, I believe, he used to be our Mets correspondent. He's a great follow on Twitter. He was the guy who was doing he would take pictures of all the empty seats, all the empty courtside seats at Knicks games and post them during games. So he was pretty great about doing. I thought he was a great follow for the Knicks this year to chronicle how bad their year was and how unentertaining their team was. So what's the score in the Wizards game now, Evan?
112-78.
Man, what's Canadian for quit?
Well, just now in the stands, a bunch of fans started chanting USA. So a bunch of Raptors fans started yelling. I'm trying to fight them, so they got kicked out of the game.
That's actually kind of funny that somebody's chanting USA. I find that.
Evan and I were at the game Friday. There were a pretty loud bunch of obnoxious Canadian fans there.
Is that a compliment or not?
It's not a compliment. They were really loud, and they couldn't sing "Oh Canada" on key or with the person singing their anthem that the Wizards had. So, no, it was not an impressive performance to their players or their fans in Washington.
All right, well, on that note, on that anti-Canadian note, I think it's time to go. This has been a long manual transmissions for our 0 viewers.
Hey, Kevin Seraphin's coming in.
I should have tweeted it out because I had 2 friends who said they would have watched it, but I forgot.
Well, they can watch it in the archive, as usual, at Carolina-Hellenic Blue.
Hey, you know I lost the dash, by the way.
Blogspot.com. What?
It's just Carolina Hellenic Blue, one word.
Wow, that's you sure all your visitors have been able to come over and follow your new URL?
Yeah, I talked to all 4 of them. They did, so it's good.
I feel bad I'm the only one not wearing a Grease shirt, so I'll make sure to wear that next time. 4/8 and 11, I'm Yanis. Christos Anesti.
Avifos Anesti.
Kalini Klasas.
Bye.
Bye.